For years, society has settled on boats, trains, cars, and airplanes. The demand for fast and efficient transport continues to grow enormously. However, the current modes of transportation play a significant role in the pollution of our environment. So, in terms of traveling fast but in a sustainable way, time has been standing still.
I believe that the world is ready for a fast and greener mode of transportation. By solving unexplored challenges, I want to bring the full-scale Hyperloop system closer to becoming a reality.
This year, I want to convince as many people as possible about the Hyperloop technology to create awareness for the transportation method of the future.
By creating the foundation of the boat, I contribute to a safe and functional Hyperloop that can perform at incredible speeds, allowing me to push the boundaries of technology.
The challenge of realizing full magnetic levitation is a crucial element of the Hyperloop system, so I'm happy to be part of Delft Hyperloop to work on this.
Linear magnetic propulsion is still on unexplored grounds. This year we take the unique chance to boldly go where no one has ever gone before.
I want to test myself as an engineer by creating a thermal management system in a vacuum environment, which is one of the Hyperloop's largest technological challenges.
The sense and control systems form the heart and brain of the pod. It thrills me that advances made here will trickle down to all other systems and allow them to perform at their best.
The world is ready for change, and Delft Hyperloop is ready to take on the challenge to sustainably revolutionize the way we move. Now is the time to accelerate. We are Delft Hyperloop 7. And this is Helios 2.
Hello everyone. My name is Umika Bhagole and I'm the team captain of Delft Hyperloop. Delft Hyperloop is a student team from the TU Delft and we develop a scalable and energy neutral Hyperloop system. Today I was asked to tell you a bit more about this new mode of transportation and what it would look like to travel with a Hyperloop in the future. So before I get into what it would look like to travel with a Hyperloop in the future, I'd first like to take you back in time and take you back to the early days of transportation. The history of transportation is a history of technological innovation. The technological revolutions in transport powered a next great leap in our society. For centuries long, people have been asking themselves this question, like how can we travel a longer distance in a shorter amount of time? And to travel faster and easier, people rode horses and invented the wheel and eventually built boats. And in the 19th century, the steam engine was applied to trains and boats. And this really allowed for faster and more efficient traveling over longer distances. Still, air travel was something very inconceivable for many years. The thought of flying seemed unnatural and scary. And people couldn't believe that humans could fly with machines heavier than air. Except for a few pioneers. The Wright brothers kept asking themselves that age-old question. How can we travel a longer distance in a shorter amount of time? And the Wright brothers, they believed they could fly. And then, in the beginning of the 20th century, they indeed flew. They had invented the world's first airplane. And traveling by airplane allowed people to connect over the whole world. And today, air travel is also the most commonly mode of transportation for long-distance traveling. Back then, these ideas, these inventions, these technological inventions, such as the train and the car and the boat, they might have seemed unconventional or even crazy, because they challenged the world that people were used to. But it were these unconventional and radical innovations that made it possible for us to really connect the world and to mix distance cultures and bring them together, and also to come with new ideas and new innovations. And still today, we still use these modes of transportation. So I'd like to take you on a journey of how traveling looks like today. So recently I've been looking into going on a nice city trip for this summer. And I personally really like Milan. I think it's one of the most beautiful cities in Europe. So I started looking into a trip from the Netherlands. We come from Delft, so from Rotterdam to Milan. And when I was looking into this journey, I think that we all can agree that we want to travel in a fast and in a comfortable way. But with climate change being one of the biggest challenges that we as humankind are facing now, we also want to travel in a sustainable way. So for my journey to Milan, traveling by train is the most environmental friendly option. But door to door, this would take me around 16 hours and 4 to 5 transfers on the way. So that doesn't really tick the fast and comfortable box. So I started looking into traveling by airplane, and this would only take me 1 hour and 40 minutes, which seems quite attractive. But still, you have to go to the airport, and then wait for your check-in, and then once you've actually arrived to your destination, you still have to go from the airport to the actual city center where you would like to stay. So with all of this, traveling by airplane still would take me around 5 hours. So, and then I haven't even mentioned the amount of energy that such a flight consumes, which is more than 13 times as much as traveling by train. So there seems to be no ideal way for me to travel. So I think that once again, we've come to a point where we're asking ourselves that same question that people have been asking themselves for centuries long. So how can we travel a longer distance in a shorter amount of time? But with climate change being one of the biggest challenges that we as humankind are facing, we now are also asking ourselves, how can we travel a longer distance in a shorter amount of time and in a sustainable way? So we at Delft Hyperloop have the solution for you. And this is a Hyperloop. A Hyperloop is a new mode of transportation that can reach speeds of 1,000 kilometers an hour in a highly energy efficient way. But just like the train and the boat and the airplane, this idea may still sound a bit unconventional, crazy, or even radical. But with the current challenges that we as society are facing, we now more than ever need to invest in such ideas to find solutions for the challenges that we have. So how does a Hyperloop work, and why is it so hard for the current mode of transportation to reach such high speeds? First of all, this has to do with air drag. So air drag increases not only linearly, but quadratically, meaning that if you want to double the speed of a current mode of transportation, you will need 4 times as much energy. What a Hyperloop does is it limits this factor by moving the vehicle, we call the vehicle a pod, through a tube in which there is a near vacuum environment. So this makes the vehicle encounter very little air drag. And the second major limiting factor that the current mode of transportation encounter is rolling resistance. So rolling resistance also increases with speed, making the, for example, wheels of a current mode of transportation to become very inefficient at higher speeds. What a Hyperloop does is it completely eliminates this factor by using electromagnetic forces to levitate the pod, which makes it not touch a track or a tube at all. And to move forward, a Hyperloop also makes use of a contactless magnetic propulsion system. So by limiting the drag and friction, a Hyperloop can reach speeds that come close to the speed of sound, using only very little energy. So every couple of minutes, a Hyperloop pod will move from one heart of a city to another, which provides a solution to long and uncomfortable travel hours and enables the energy transition. So connected by Hyperloop, Europe would become one sustainable metropolis where you could just grab a coffee with a friend in a different European city in under tens of minutes. So let's put this new mode of transportation into perspective and see how traveling with a Hyperloop would turn out for my journey to Milan. So first, you would have to board at a centrally located Hyperloop station. So I took Rotterdam for an example. So there you would board a Hyperloop to Milan, and under an hour you will arrive at the station Milano Centrale, right in the city center of Milan. So this is a journey that is 3 times as fast as the current journey by plane, while it only consumes about the same amount of energy as a train. So instead of making concessions like the current mode of transportation between speed and energy consumption, a Hyperloop provides us with a solution. It allows us to travel, explore, and connect, and it makes it all possible in a fast, comfortable, and sustainable way. So, this is obviously an event for the hotel industry, so I would like to take you a bit more into detail about how this would turn out for what the side effects are of actually traveling with Hyperloop in the future. So this new and revolutionizing mode of transportation will really change mobility as we know it today. So it will make the world a lot more connected and accessible, which means that, for example, traveling from Amsterdam to Rotterdam, as it how it feels today, will feel the same in the future as traveling from Amsterdam to Paris. And for the hotel industry, that would also mean that there would be a lot more tourism, and especially a lot more traveling for short stays. So, for example, if you now have a conference somewhere in Europe, I'll stick with the Milan example. Currently, if there's a conference and it's only 2 days, I would be a bit hesitant to actually go there. Because my trip would either be with a plane, which is very polluting for such a short stay, or I would go by train, which is a very long trip, and going back and forth would be about the same amount of time as my actual stay. But by Hyperloop, it would take me such a short time, and it would be much more attractive to actually go for such a short stay. Also, the Hyperloop also obviously has social and economic effects on our environment. So first of all, it would create a lot of job opportunities. You will need a new infrastructure, and you will also have a lot of stations in the city centers, which will allow for a lot more recreation opportunities. At the same time, it might also take away some jobs from, for example, the aviation industry, because a Hyperloop is meant to replace traveling within a continent. And another thing is that as it would be possible to live in Paris but work in Amsterdam, this would also have a lot of effects on urbanization. And the way that traffic is distributed would really change. So there would be a lot more traffic intercities, but for example, traveling by road might be a little bit less. And a Hyperloop has also a lot of effects on our climate. So the idea for Hyperloop is that it is energy neutral and it would have a positive impact on our environment, but still you would have to lay down a whole infrastructure, which requires materials and also actually making sure there's room for an infrastructure. So currently there's a lot of research being done on how this can be done as sustainably as possible. So for example, using the actual infrastructure to also produce energy, so that you can use this energy to different projects in the environment, but also to have the amount of energy to actually make your Hyperloop pod move forward. And Hyperloop also has a lot of effects on its surroundings because maybe, as you also know, with other infrastructure projects such as windmill parks or laying down new highways, a thing that really is a big has a big effect is the acceptance of the people that are in the surroundings. So currently, our research group is doing research on how you can really gain acceptance to smoothly go into a transition of Hyperloop infrastructure. And there are also a lot of different ways that you can actually set up such a Hyperloop system. So it could be under the ground or on top of the ground, as you see here, and it all depends on the geography of an environment. So this is an example of what a Hyperloop would look like. We are currently mostly thinking of using already existing infrastructure, such as highways, and then putting a Hyperloop infrastructure next to it. Okay, so how did this futuristic concept made its way to Delft? So back in 2013, Elon Musk wrote a white paper about it, which really gave an impulse to the realization of these concepts. And a group of TU Delft students were really intrigued by this idea, and they started a new team, which is Delft Hyperloop. And they competed at this new competition with a totally new concept. So I have a short video about our history, so you can get a bit better view.
And now that's Delft.
And the award goes to Delft Hyperloop.
Right, so our first team, Delft Hyperloop 1, competed at the first edition of the Hyperloop SpaceX competition, and they managed to win the very first prize at this very first edition. And this really put our team on the charts worldwide. And in the next few years, our teams also competed at the SpaceX competition. And we also set a record at some point of 366 kilometers an hour. And since our fifth team, we compete at a new and totally different competition. It's called the European Hyperloop Week, and this competition really challenges student teams to not only build a Hyperloop prototype that works on a small scale, but to really develop the best Hyperloop technology that can be applied to a real Hyperloop network. And to also do research on the current and future challenges ahead for the implementation of a Hyperloop infrastructure. And our immediate predecessors, they won at this competition with a very new and innovative idea. Their pod was upside down. So usually a pod, or usually a train is the road is on the ground, and then the pod is on the train cabin is on top of it. But this idea was upside down, so the track was on top and the pod was hanging underneath it. And this made it much more energy efficient and also stable. So with this, and they also made it possible to levitate for the first time. And this made them win the competition and won the very first prize, which makes us currently world champions. And now we are already the 7th Delft Hyperloop team. And we know that this idea of a levitating capsule traveling through a low pressure tube may still sound a bit unconventional and crazy. But we really believe that you should invest in this technology and really find out how feasible it is. And that is what we exactly do. So we design, build, and demonstrate Hyperloop technology in just 1 year. And so we are with 41 students, and all 41 students, we all come from different study backgrounds. We have 13 different study backgrounds in our team and 10 different nationalities. And together, we are striving for one mission. And this mission is to catalyze the implementation of a Hyperloop system by demonstrating its full-scale potential. So that means that we want to show the world that the technology that we develop can really be applied to a real-life Hyperloop network. And we want to find solutions for the challenges ahead in regards to the infrastructure and things like that. So how do we do that? So we design, produce, and then test, and eventually also demonstrate the Hyperloop technology at a competition. So we start off our year with a design phase. And during this phase, we basically start off from scratch, and started with a design that we think a Hyperloop should look like in the future. So we start on a whiteboard, coming with all of these ideas, and then eventually we make a 3D model on our computers with every little bracket and every little connector and is in this design. So this is the design that we came up with this year. We call it Helios 2. At the beginning, you already saw a bit of a sneak peek of what it looks like. This year, we are, amongst others, developing a totally new motor, and our pod will be fully levitating, which means that it will not touch the track at all. So it will have no rolling resistance. So once we have our design, we start with production. And we do this here at the Dream Hall, which is located at the TU Delft campus. And there we produce almost all of our parts into millimeters precision, which is quite a big task for our engineers. And then the most exciting start follows, which we are currently in, which is the testing phase. So at the beginning of the year, we came up with this concept, this ambitious goal of a new and innovative Hyperloop system. And then we actually need to test these new ideas. So for example, this year, we have a design with a new and totally different motor that has never been performed ever in the world. So this is a picture of one of our engineers testing this motor on a small scale to see if it actually works. And to give you a bit of a preview, it actually did. So that's really exciting for us. And then, once we've actually intensively tested our system and combined all of the subsystems together, make sure that our pod really works, we go to our competition. And this year, our competition takes place in Edinburgh, Scotland. And there we will be competing for the world champion title against student teams from all over the world. And our goal there is, of course, to win. And that was a bit about what we do as Delft Hyperloop and how a Hyperloop works. Well, some of my team members are around here, so if you have any questions, you can just ask them. Thank you for your attention.